My dear friends, thank all of you for being here tonight to express your love and support for our priest. It's no surprise that this year's celebration has surpassed the $2.5 million goal, the co-chairs being Jack Connors and Joe Nolan. All Boston came together at the passing of Jack just 2 months ago. But tonight we see that his legacy of love and service lives on. I'm sure that his Irish eyes are smiling tonight. Jack was our own Catholic Robin Hood. Taking money from the wealthy and using it for the poor and the disadvantaged. St. Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians that God loves a cheerful giver. Jack was a cheerful giver and helped others to follow his example of generosity and compassion. And Joe, thank you for carrying on valiantly and doing such a great job. By the way, I like those teleprompters. Where'd you get those? I also want to thank all of those involved in Clergy Trust, which oversees the fund for the benefit of the health, well-being, and retirement needs of all the priests of the Archdiocese. I hope to learn more about those benefits next month. A special thanks to Mark Vachon and the Board of Trustees, as well as Mike Scannell, Executive Director of Clergy Trust, and all the marvelous Clergy Trust staff. I also want to take this opportunity to express my thanks and congratulations to Father Bob Kickham upon receiving the well-deserved St. Joseph's the Worker Award. Like St. Joseph, Bob Kickham eschews the limelight while he keeps everything on track. I am so grateful for his generosity, his loyalty, his infinite patience with me, while with seeming effortless grace, he's worked tirelessly to make your Archbishop's ministry possible. I don't know what I would have done without him. Each year, this celebration of priesthood brings together hundreds of Catholics of the Archdiocese to honor our clergy and commit to their care. The videos and testimonials that have become a part of this annual event remind all of us of how blessed we are to have such great priests serving in our parishes, hospitals, and all the ministries of the Archdiocese of Boston. The fact that so many young men are coming to the seminary in Boston, at times even over the objections of their peers, their families, and their friends, is a great sign of hope and an indication of how powerful the witness of our priests is. Since arriving in Boston 21 years ago, we have ordained 140 priests for service in this archdiocese. This month, 18 new men have come to the seminary, bringing the number of our seminarians to 65 who are studying for the archdiocese. We are blessed to have our seminarians here tonight. Please show them how happy you are for their vocation. A couple of months ago, the priests of the Archdiocese arranged what I call a wake for me. They called it a clergy convocation, but I called it the autopsy. They certainly observed the old adage, de mortuis nihil nisi bonum, Of the dead, say nothing but good things. They were very kind. There was a lot of hyperbole. I was touched by their kindness and appreciation that they expressed. But I was blown away when they presented me with one of these huge checks for almost $500,000, half of which was raised by contributions of the priests themselves, and the other half was a match from a generous benefactor. I thought to myself, now I'll be able to get that red Lamborghini with the interior leather. But alas, they told me they were giving me that money for seminary scholarships. Our priests are not only committed to minister to you now, but are willing to make sacrifices to ensure that priestly ministry will be available to your children in our Catholic communities of the future. We are all so proud of our priests who serve so generously in many capacities here in the Archdiocese, as well as in the missions, in the St. James Society, in the military. There's a part of me that would have been happy to retire from being a bishop at the prescribed age of 75. At that point, I probably would have gone to the Capuchin missions. I joined the order to become a missionary. But what with global warming, I guess they couldn't find an ice floe to put me on. And the Holy Fathers asked me to stay on for a few more years. 21 years ago, when I arrived in Boston, I came with fear and trepidation. I found some inspiration from my episcopal motto, quodcumque dixit et facite, the words of Mary at the Last Supper, do whatever he tells you. A man does not become a bishop by applying for the job, or searching the classified ads, or contacting a headhunter. The relationship of a bishop to his local diocese is very much like a marriage. Indeed, the bishop's ring is a symbol of his love for the church. The bishop is called to love his people with his whole heart, just as Jesus loves his bride, the church, and gives his life for her. One of my bishop's friends said, "The appointment of a bishop is like an arranged marriage, and the Holy Father is the matchmaker." Pope St. John Paul II named me a bishop 4 times. I always say the fact that he named me a bishop is proof that papal infallibility does not extend to the naming of bishops. Arranged marriages often have a greater success rate than marriages based on romance. When arranged marriages were common in society, the expectation was that people would get to know each other and come to love each other, as immortalized in that great song, "Do You Love Me?" in The Fiddler on the Roof, the dialogue between Tevye and Golda about their 25 years of being in an arranged marriage. After so many years of hard work, struggles, and several children, Tevye asks his wife, who saw him for the first time on their wedding day, "Do you love me?" After reflection, Golda says, "I suppose I do." And Tevye says, "And I suppose I love you too." My arranged marriage with Boston was not that abrupt. The installation was not the first time the Bostonians saw me. 40 years ago, when I was bishop in the West Indies, where my entire diocesan budget was $30,000, there was no salary or insurance, and that $30,000 was to support me, the retired bishop, the nun who was the chancellor, and 2 seminarians. Cardinal Law graciously invited me to do confirmations in the Archdiocese, and every year I would come up for a couple of weeks and confirm young people in parishes throughout the diocese, especially the Haitians, Portuguese, and Spanish confirmations. In some ways, the English confirmations were the most challenging. I remember saying to one of the pastors how amazed I was at the strange names that the young people in Boston chose for their confirmation. He said, "What do you mean, Bishop?" I said, "Well, today, 3 young men came up and said, 'Bishop, my confirmation name is Mark.'" I said, "What kind of a saint's name is that?" And the pastor said, "Bishop, haven't you ever heard of the Gospel of St. Mark?" After 10 years of helping with confirmations in Boston, I was sent to Fall River, where I became your neighbor for 10 years. So it was after a 20-year courtship before the arranged marriage in Boston took place, and I know how surprised people were, beginning with myself, when a scruffy, bearded Capuchin and his bare feet was not exactly what people were expecting. But I was very gratified when the Catholics of Boston embraced me. At one of our vocation activities recently, one of the young prospective recruits asked me, he said, "Cardinal, can your seminarians have pets in the seminary?" I said, "Well, I'm not sure what the present practice is." Then I shared with him about my life as a seminarian. I said, "We had lots of pets in St. Fidelis of Sigmaringen Capuchin Seminary in Butler, Pennsylvania, where I was an Irish infiltrator in a Pennsylvania Dutch seminary. During the Prohibition, the friars made beer for the entire parish." I told the young man, in that seminary, we had hundreds of birds, chickens, and then we had 100 dairy cattle, 50 pigs, and 10 beehives that Joe mentioned. We didn't give our pets names, however, because we were going to eat them. Except for the bees, of course. 2 of my chores as a seminarian involved taking care of the bees, which Joe mentioned I considered good preparation for being a bishop. My other responsibility was working in the butcher shop, making those German sausages. I understand why people say that you'll never eat sausages if you watch them being made. One day, as I was preparing the sausages with all the spices and the ground pork and putting them into the casings, which are actually pig intestines, one of the German nuns who cooked in the seminary came into the butcher shop. The sisters directed our work. Her name was Sister Nadworga. We greeted her with the usual pleasantries. Guten Nachmittag, Schwester Nadworga. Gelobt sei Jesus Christus in Ewigkeit. Sister spoke no English at all. She was bringing in a large box of bananas into the butcher shop. She put it on the floor, smiled at us, opened the box, and suddenly this huge tarantula leaped out onto her veil and was climbing up her back. I was in shock. I panicked. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know the German word for spider. So I simply picked up this broom and started beating the nun on her back, beating that tarantula, all the while shouting, "Schwester, Schwester, das Tier, das Tier, sister, sister, the animal, the animal." She thought I was calling her an animal. There is nothing worse in these dramatic situations than not having the right words to say. I feel that way tonight. This is one of my last opportunities to address so many of my priests, deacons, fellow religious, and Catholics of the Archdiocese, and yet I don't have the adequate vocabulary to express the sentiments that are in my heart at this moment. First of all, I wish to thank you for your kindness, for your forbearance and your patience with me for 21 years. I regret the times that I failed you. I thank you for your love and support. Coming to Boston was not easy, but leaving Boston is even harder because I have come to love you all so deeply. I am so grateful for the many wonderful memories, parish anniversaries, men's and women's conferences, the Eucharistic Congress, being with our young people in World Youth Days and pro-life marches, the successful campaign against physician-assisted suicide initiative, the beautiful ordinations of bishops, priests, and deacons. One of the highlights for me has always been the Chrism Mass, where we gather as the Presbyterate of Boston for our annual checkup and oil change, as I call it, and to celebrate our priestly fraternity. I shall always cherish the wonderful ethnic celebrations, Marian processions, and feasts with the Hispanics, Haitians, Brazilians, Italians, Irish, Vietnamese, and so many other communities. The celebrations of wedding anniversaries, the Chevreuse Award ceremonies, the arrival of the relics of Padre Pio and the Cure of Ars, the excitement around the new pastoral center in Braintree, and the renovation of the Cathedral of the Holy Cross have all been signs to hope for us in our Catholic community in moments of great challenges. I always say that being a Catholic in Boston is a contact sport. But the faith and courage of our Catholic people has helped us to face terrible challenges, scandals, crisis. So many faithful Catholics have indeed embraced a life of discipleship, striving to live lives of deep conversion, to repair the church in the face of so many sins and failures, to repair our society, to build a civilization of love. The commitment of the Catholic people to serve the poor, to educate the young, promote the Church's social gospel, and to perform works of mercy so that the joy of the gospel can be reflected in the coherence of our lives and so evangelize the world. We are poised to receive a new archbishop in a few weeks. The arrival of a new bishop in a diocese must be a moment of joy and renewal. For us Catholics, the office of bishop is very important because the office of bishop has been handed down from generation to generation as part of Christ's plan for the church. Unlike some of the large Christian megachurches, the Catholic Church does not depend upon the cult of personality, but upon apostolic governance that's passed down in the sacrament of holy orders. So the arrival of a new bishop is a reminder of the importance not of the individual office holder, but of the sacrament that makes the pastoral love of the divine shepherd present in every generation in all parts of the world. The arrival of a new bishop also reminds us of our connectedness with the 1 billion Catholics in every part of the globe, and our connectedness to the universal church, to Rome, the See of Peter, Peter who was appointed by Christ to lead the church in his name. Jesus says in the gospel, "Thou art Peter, and upon this rock I shall build my church." At the Last Supper, Jesus makes a gift of himself to us in the Eucharist and makes the apostles the first generations of bishops. On that same occasion, our blessed Savior prays for unity among his followers and calls on us to live a new commandment of fraternal love, which should characterize discipleship in the church. Jesus loved us first. We have to love first, not wait until people love us and then reciprocate. Love first, forgive first, give first. Despite the polarized world surrounding us, the Church must be an oasis of mercy and solidarity where we love and support one another. Our loyalty to Christ must be expressed in our love for the community and our support for the bishop. St. Paul warns us not to break up into tribes, saying, I am of Peter, I am of Paul, I am of Apollo. We are all of Christ. Pope Francis is promoting the synodal way in the Church, calling us to deepen our sense of community, participation, and solidarity, learning how to listen to one another, and together seek to discern God's will for his people. Archbishop Henning, we welcome you and rejoice at your presence among us. To you we pledge our prayers and unfailing support so that through your ministry, Christ, the Good Shepherd, may continue to manifest his unfailing love and mercy in the Church. Cade Millefelch, 100,000 welcomes. We wish you many blessings, health, strength, the gift of great wisdom, and the joy of the gospel. You come to us in the name of the Lord, in nomine Domini. We receive you with joy and gratitude and prayerfully commend you to the loving Mother of the Divine Shepherd and to the prayers and the patron of our Archdiocese of Boston, the great Bishop and missionary St. Patrick. I would like to conclude these remarks with words attributed to a very dear friend of mine, Archbishop Oscar Romero of San Salvador. Pope Francis once used these prayerful reflections in an address that he gave to the Roman Curia, and tonight I wish to share them with you. Every now and then, it helps to take a step back and to see things from a distance. The kingdom is not only beyond our efforts, it is also beyond our visions. In our life, we manage to achieve only a small part of the wondrous plan that is God's work. Nothing that we do is complete, which is to say that the kingdom is greater than ourselves. No statement says everything that can be said. No prayer completely expresses the faith. No program fully accomplishes the mission of the Church. No goal or purpose ever reaches completion. That is what it's about. We plant seeds that one day will grow. We water seeds already planted, knowing that others will watch over them. We lay the foundations for something that will develop. It may remain incomplete, but it's a beginning, a step along the way. It's an opportunity for the grace of God to enter and to do the rest. It may be that we will never see its completion, but that is the difference between being the master and the laborer. We are laborers, not the master builders, servants, not the Messiah. We are prophets of a future that does not belong to us. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, I've talked too long, but still can't find the adequate words to express my love and my thanks. Let us move forward in hope, with the certainty that God's love will never fail us. As I set aside the pallium of the Archdiocese of Boston that Pope St. John Paul II placed on my shoulders 2 decades ago, I consider it the greatest privilege having been able to serve you as your shepherd. You will always be in my heart and in my prayers. May God bless each and every one of you. May God bless this great Archdiocese of Boston. May God bless our new Archbishop. Indeed, Pope Francis has authorized me tonight to give you his apostolic blessing with the plenary indulgences. At the same time, he asks you for your prayers for him. I'd ask the priest to help with the responses if they still remember them. Dominus vobiscum. Sit nomen Domini benedictum, ex hoc nunc usque in saeculum, adiutorium nostrum in nomine Domini, qui fecit caelum et terram, benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sanctus. Salve Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, et spes nostra salve. A te clamamus, exules filii Eve, a te suspiramus, gementes et flentes, in hoc lacrimarum vale. Ea ergo advocata nostra, illos tuos misericordes oculos ad nos converte. Et Iesum benedictum fructum ventris tui, nobis post hoc exilium ostende. O clemens, O pia, O dulcis Virgo Maria. God bless, safe home.